Hi everyone one more time, and I'm really glad you're here today with us. There is an interesting subject we're going to discuss, but first of all, let me introduce myself. Some words about me. My name is Любов'ю, and I've been working as an English coach for the last 2 years and as an English language tutor for the previous 7 years. I obtained a master's degree in philology of English and literature. Also worked for an IT company in Poland, Wrocław, as well as in the biggest Polish bank called Bank Zachodni WBK at the Project Portfolio Management Office. Got a Prince 2 Foundation Certificate in Project Management at the Wrocław University of Economics, and presently working also for a Polish company as a freelance translator. I'm a blogger and I teach English online for adults. And now I'm really excited to introduce you my friend, Rendel Collet. And I'm extremely happy that you're going to share with us your priceless experience. So Randy, would you be so kind and tell us some words about yourself?
Hi everyone, welcome to the class, lecture, seminar, whatever you want to call it. My name is Rendel Collet. My history is in business throughout the United States. Most of my career has been in the restaurant business. Interviewing, I've interviewed more than 1,000 people in my lifetime. Each restaurant you have 5 to 10 interviews a day. The restaurant business is high turnover business, so you have to interview constantly. I've worked in 10 different United States, and I've managed several businesses in those states, including owning my own businesses and consulting for other businesses. And I was in the restaurant business for 25 years, and then I joined the Peace Corps, and I was in Ukraine for about 3 years until we were evacuated in March.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
Thanks a lot, Randy. And so I want to say that first of all, we are going to cover the main points of our today's subject. So it's job interview. And at the end of the meeting, you will be able to ask your questions personally. Okay, so be patient. And okay, so Randy, as far as I remember, you were going to tell us how to be a star at the job interview. Am I right?
Yes, that's the intention, is how to be a star in a job interview. First of all, what you have to understand is you're going to an interview with somebody that they need an employee. So they're as excited to have you in the room as you are to be in the room. Your next job as a candidate for a position, your next objective as a candidate for a position is to then sell yourself. You're there to sell yourself. You're there to sell them on your career, on your skill set. So one of the best things I can tell you to do is just relax. Try to relax before you go into any interview. You want to practice. So this is one way to practice. I'll have, if I've done this correctly and I'm using a new software, I'll have a live video so you can rewatch this. Other ways to practice interviewing skills are to grab a friend and write down a list of possible questions an interviewer might ask, and then just practice interviewing and answering those questions. Now, an interviewer is going to ask you all the basic questions, including what of your past jobs and why did you leave those jobs. The next thing I'd like to touch on is whenever you're talking about past jobs, past employment, past schools, past universities, or past teachers, you always want to come up with really good ways to talk about those. If you have to say something negative, put it as an opportunity for you. So it was a learning experience for you. It was an opportunity for you to improve. but you don't want to be negative towards a past employer or a past teacher or any individual or institution or business that you worked for in the past. That's usually a big red flag to a hiring manager that you could cause problems in the future. I'll pause here for a second. And Любов, do you have anything to add or any questions you want to add? And I can move on after that. This won't be a really long.
Well, I would like to start with the STAR method. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, so mainly the STAR method, STAR, like a star, you know. The interviewers use this STAR method to gather all the needed information about the candidate in order to understand if he's a good fit, don't they?
Yeah, the STAR method is an excellent way, and it's very popular in the United States. And the STAR method is basically you're going to be asked to describe a situation, the task, and the STAR method is a structured manner of responding to behavioral-based interview questions. I'll try to slow down because this will be a little complicated.
And here I have one question. What should the question be, the interviewer's question be, before you start following the parts of this method? Yeah, before you start answering.
It's going to be that's a great question, Любовь. It's going to be a situation-based question, and I'll give you an example. Okay. After the interviewer gets past the basic questions of where you worked, how long you worked there, and what you got paid, this is an example of a behavioral interview question. Please tell me about a time when you had to go above and beyond the call of duty in order to get a job done. In order to get a job done. So that question again, slowly, is tell me about a time when you had to go above the call of duty in order to get a job done. Call of duty means your regular work description. So your regular work description is I'm supposed to show up at a specific time. I'm supposed to get A, B, and C done before the end of the day, and then I go home.
So this means you do some extra job, yeah?
Right.
Extra work.
So give me an example of how you do an extra job. And the STAR method is you're going to describe the situation where you went, you did extra in your job. The T, that situation is the S part. STAR is an acronym. T is what did you work towards? What's the task? T stands for task. A stands for action, and R stands for results. Action is describe the actions you took to address the situation. Result is describe the outcome of your actions. And in an interview and in a STAR method for answering these questions, don't be shy. You are the ultimate marketing and salesperson for you. You are trying to sell you. So you're taking credit for something that you did, and you did very well.
And there is a great phrase, taking the credit. Many people may think that this means when you go to the bank and take a credit, take money, but it doesn't, right? So would you be so kind to explain us what it means?
Yes, absolutely. So in business or in performance, taking the credit it's a phrase that comes from banking, and what it basically means is you're taking the accolades, you are taking the positive reviews, you're taking the positive outcome and attributing that to yourself. Taking the credit. Now that can be reversed. And leaders, most often good leaders, will reverse that. They give the credit to people that deserve the credit. What that means is business leaders need to praise people often. So you're giving yourself praise, giving yourself the credit, or you're giving someone else praise, giving them the credit for a project or an accomplishment.
So take a credit, give a credit, praise, approval for something, yeah?
That's exactly it.
Yeah, okay. So may I sum up for a moment? So as far as I understand, STAR method, there are 4 letters, S-T-A-R, yeah, and S. Okay, you start using this method, recalling some situation at a previous place where you worked, for example, yeah? So S is the specific event, not a generalized situation, yeah? You give a situation and you give enough detail, yeah?
That is correct.
This situation can, sorry?
Yep, perfect.
This situation can be from a previous job. So you provide a certain situation. Then the second letter T stands for task or target. The goal you were moving to in this very situation at your previous job. Okay? And action, A stands for action. So you describe the actions you took to address that situation. You tell the interviewer what you did in that very situation to reach your goal, right? And R stands for result, the outcome of your actions. Yes? So, and mainly this outcome, this result must be positive. Am I right? Or should we eliminate any examples that do not paint you in a positive light? For example, when you lost the game.
Yes. You almost never want to use a negative light. You always want to use a positive light. Now, I don't want to confuse people, but using your example of I lost the game, it's okay to use something like negative, like I lost the game, if you also include what you learned from that.
Yeah.
So for example, I lost the game, and I learned that I need to be a better defenseman. I need to learn to handle the ball better, and I need to learn to practice more shots on goal.
So somehow to show your strengths, yeah?
Yep. The whole intention of an interview is for you to brag about yourself, for you to talk about yourself in a positive light. So let me go over some sample responses that you could give for a situation.
That's what I wanted to ask you.
Great. I'm gonna start with some examples. And on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, there should be an attachment that you can download. It's in English. If I talk to Любов'ю nicely, maybe she'll translate it someday in the future. But we won't make her translate it into Ukrainian or Russian, but we'll ask her nicely. But I think it's on the down leftward corner as an attachment, and you can download this. And I'm going over this, and it talks about the STAR method, and it's a great.
Okay.
All right. So let's continue. Now I'm going to assume everybody saw that. If not, I gave you my email. So my email's in chat. We'll send you the document. So we're going to go over some sample STAR responses. Are we ready to do that, Любов'ю, or do we need to wait? Is there other questions?
No, go ahead.
Okay, great. So here's a situation. First, I'll go over the situation. Advertising revenue was falling off for my college newspaper. The newspaper is called The Review, and large numbers of long-term advertisers were not reviewing contracts or subscriptions. Now here's the task. Here's how I described my task. My goal was to generate new ideas, materials, and incentives that would result in at least 15% increase in advertisers from the year before. My goal was to increase advertising 15%. And I designed, what I did, my action was, I designed a new promotional packet to go with a pricing sheet and compared the benefits of my newspaper circulation with other ads and type of ads, media, and other advertising possibilities in the area. I also set up a special training session for the account executives with a School of Business Administration professor who discussed competitive selling strategies. So I set up this business administration special training, which was really successful. But the overall result, which is the R of the star, the overall result is we signed contracts with 15 former advertisers for daily ads and 5 for special supplements. We increased our new advertisers by 20% over the same period last year. So the situation was we needed more advertising. My goal, my task, situation S, task T, was to generate new ideas and incentives to increase advertising. The action I took was promotional packets and special training, and the result was a 20% increase in advertising. So that's an example of the STAR method.
So guys, you will be able to go through this example in the document Randy has sent you or will send you. I'm not sure.
Sure.
No.
We can do both,
okay.
Just to make sure.
Okay. Okay, so I think it's pretty clear. So now I think we can get to the questions I received on Instagram from my followers. Okay?
Great. At the end, I'd like to do a quick summary too, once we get through the questions.
Okay. So the first question is how to stay calm during the interview, how to reduce stress.
That's a great question, Liubov. There's several ways to reduce stress. One of the things I do is I practice a little meditation, but you want to do something that's calming right before the interview. I would stay away from caffeinated drinks. Don't overdo yourself on coffee or even tea. You want to probably just get in a quiet space and think. Before the interview, maybe 5 minutes before the interview or right before the interview, put all your materials down and just breathe. So there's lots of applications you can use to just breathe. You can go for a walk. If you're going for a walk, don't take your materials with you. Just enjoy something that the nature, the trees, the animals, the flowers. Go for a walk. Anything to get your mind off the actual interview. I also like to listen to music, so I'll listen to some nice calming music. But there's lots of ways, but my biggest recommendation is to try to, for 5 to 10 minutes before the interview, is stop studying and just breathe and do something that really kind of nourishes you, whether it's be quiet, meditate, walk, or listen to music, or anything else that normally calms you.
And I would also add that the realization that stress won't help you anyway, yeah? So just come down, take 3 deep breaths. I do it all the time. So, and realization that okay, if I'm stressed, that won't help me. Just calm down and everything will be fine. And do your best, because...
That's awesome input, Любов'ю. That's a very good input. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Randy. And the next question is phrases which are a must during a job interview that will sell you, make them want you, make you the most attractive candidate.
You know, that's a really good question, and I'm going to just give you some that come off the top of my head. And one of the things I mentioned in the beginning is to be positive. So some of the greatest phrases you can use are, and what I learned, and what I learned is an amazing thing. Whenever you're talking about yourself, if there's something constructive you need to talk about. Whether you've had a challenge, what I've learned. You also want to try to stay away from phrases like, I'm a people person. In the United States, people like to say, I get along well with people. That should be understood, and everybody says that. It's not. So that's one phrase you shouldn't use. Lots of positive phrases like, always accentuate your jobs. So I worked with XYZ company, and it was a really amazing opportunity for me to learn leadership. I was able to lead a team of 10 people. I really was able to learn and expand my goal-setting abilities with my team. The last thing I'll kind of mention as just an example is also talking about teams and how well you worked with people. So I had this amazing team that I worked with. So you're using great adjectives, but not talking about yourself, talking about your organization, talking about your team, your coworkers. And when you go from job to job to job, say what you learned and say very positive things and use phrases like, it was an amazing opportunity. And you also want to say things like, it was great to work for that company, and that company was really talented or really successful at.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You are saying really useful things, Randy. Thanks a lot. Okay, and the next question is, good business phrases as well as LinkedIn phrases to use during interview to sound more professional, to fill in the pauses when you're not ready with the answer straight away. You know, this moment, like, okay, to fill in these pauses. Probably there is something you can say. What would you recommend?
You know, that's a great example, and I do it. You'll see it in the transcript that I say and when I'm really thinking. So this is going, like I just did. So this is going to be an example of do what I say, and it's something I also need to practice. It's something I need to learn. But I have been taught, and what I need to practice is pauses are okay. You do not need to fill the space. So in pauses, sometimes you just want to be quiet. And when you're talking, instead of going, well, I was, like I do, you can just go, and I was walking down the street, and I really was excited to see somebody that was taking money for a good charity. And I love that they're collecting money for the community. When they're collecting money for the community, now that particular situation, I added the just to show you the difference. So in the beginning, I did a pause. And in the second half of that conversation, I threw an in there. So sometimes, and mostly what you're taught by the interviewing gurus, which I am not. I'm just done it a lot, so I have a lot of what are called street smarts, which means I've done it, I haven't been taught it. A lot of the really educated and smart people will tell you that that pauses and moments where you're thinking should be practiced, and they're perfectly fine.
So pauses are okay, guys. Make pauses.
If you say or don't think about it. Just keep going. Don't worry about mistakes you make. Keep going to the next section. Keep going to the next section. Keep going to the next section. Keep talking about what you were talking about, and don't worry about the pauses, because you're not going to get a job or not get a job because you said 13 times.
Okay. Thank you, Randy. And the next question is how to answer the question of why you quit your previous job.
You know, that's a great question, and it also goes along with why were you fired from your previous job. The best answer I can give you is if you were fired from your previous job, research that on the internet a little bit, and it'll be helpful with giving you some answers. I'll give you some, but they'll want to be specific. For when you quit your job, some great examples is just being positive. I was looking for more opportunity to grow and expand my knowledge in a particular area. I had maxed out my promotions in that company, and I was really looking for new ways to learn. I was looking for new responsibilities. I really loved that company. They were an amazing company. But I really wanted to move to Chicago. I wanted to move across town. Just coming up with ways to really talk positive about your development. So I wanted to learn more accounting. I wanted to be a better widget maker. I wanted to learn more. I wanted to become a better stapler. Just be positive.
Just be positive. Okay, and I think the last question from me. You mentioned once you conducted more than 80 interviews. Which one was the most memorable and why? Probably the candidate was too inventive or decided to lie and adapt to his experience. And what consequences did it have?
Well, so that I'm going to give you two examples. My favorite interviews are the ones that make me laugh, or the ones that'll really try to talk negative about a prior job. And they all run together because I have done close to 1,000 interviews. So the ones that talk about, oh, my last job was horrible, the boss was awful, he just yelled at me all the time, he was just unrealistic in his expectations, he set goals I couldn't achieve. And what I hear as an interviewer is, I can't do it, I won't get along with my boss, I won't do what you asked me to. When you tell me I can't, I won't, or how bad your boss is, I just hear, I'm a bad employee, I'm a bad employee, I'm a bad employee. That's what I hear coming out of their mouth, and it's really kind of funny to hear. The second thing is, it's very interesting in social media times that if you have it posted on social media, anybody can see it, almost anybody can see it, depending on how your social media settings are. But really good interviewers can find social media posts that you don't want people to find. So if you've been really overly racist or angry, or you cuss a lot in your social media, and I found through applications, when I get a bunch of applications, I can go on to various social media sites and cross-reference their phone number or their email address and see posts. So I might have somebody that's interviewing for a job, and on his social media post or her social media post, they're just cussing or they're being racist, and then they don't even get calls. So the worst ones were some of the worst social media posts that I've ever seen, were people that were arriving for the job. The last thing I'll mention is somebody that shows up in a t-shirt and shorts and tennis shoes, just looks at me and goes, well, I can barely get out of bed for you, so, you know, I might want this job or I might not. Let's see what you got. At least dress professionally for the job. That does not mean you have to wear a tie or a business suit, but you got to show the interviewer that the job is important to you.
Okay, thanks a lot, Randy. And now I think it's time that the participants can turn on the microphones and ask their questions personally. Guys, who wants to ask a question, please turn on the microphone. Stanislav, you want to be first?
I'm just listening right now.
Thanks for coming.
Sure.
If you guys have any questions, that's great. It doesn't matter how. There are no small questions. There are no bad questions. Any questions, even if they're specific. If you had a hard time interviewing with somebody, or you had a hard question, go ahead.
I think Tatiana wants to say something.
When you don't have an answer for a question, you just want to be honest. You don't want to do that very often. So you want to answer all the interviewer's question, but you may not remember a date, for example. So you know, what year did you start with XYZ company? And you don't remember. You just want to say, you know, I apologize, I don't remember what time I started. Apologize. Always apologize. You know, I apologize, I don't remember. But you shouldn't do it very often. And the other thing that I always do when I'm in an interview for myself, when I am actually interviewing jobs, is I take an extra copy of my resume, and I have my resume sitting in my lap. Which is not a problem. So if somebody asks you questions, you don't have to have your resume outlined. You can just have it in your lap or have it in your hand. Having a rapport and joking in an interview is really good, but needs to have some caution. If you tell a joke and it is derogatory or negative towards people or parts of the population or ethnic groups, that could ruin the interview. If you're joking about yourself or a situation about yourself, and you can get some laughter out of your interviewer, it's going to go really well for you. But it's a hard topic. It's a hard thing to do. But make sure you're not joking about individuals or negative things about other companies. salary negotiations should be left towards the salary should be left till the end of the interview. You can ask at the before the interview. If somebody says we have an interview, the last thing you can ask is about salary. I would do that last. Your job in an interview is to first sell yourself. If they like you, and they like you a lot, then it's the business's job is to sell you then. Now that may not be true in Ukrainian, but or in Ukraine. But you want to save the salary talk till after you have sold yourself. And then before you leave, you can ask the questions, what is the salary range for this position? And then they can tell you what it pays. Oh, it pays $10 to $14 an hour, or $10,000 to $20,000 a year. They can give you a range, and then when they offer you a job, that's when you can negotiate your salary. Okay, the summary is, don't forget to relax. Practice with other people and practice in front of a mirror, but practice. What I haven't mentioned is try to learn as much as you can about the company. Don't just practice studying. Learn about the company. Find out things you can talk about the company, and get information, and then talk positive about what you like about their company. Do the research. And don't forget to be positive.
I think it's of a great importance to have the same values the company has, right?
That's a great point.
Yeah. Okay, so guys, if you don't have questions, Rendel, I want to say big thank you for your time, for being with us and taking all the effort in speaking slowly that everyone. Okay, so guys, I think we'll meet soon again. So thank you, all of you, for your participation. And I'm going to say goodbye to all of you.
Goodbye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you,
Thank
Randy.
you, Любовь. Great. Thank you, Любовь. Thanks for setting this up, and great job.
Yeah, Rendel, молодец.
Not gonna yell at you.
Okay,
Harna
bye-bye, guys.
Harna